Welcome to Becoming Astrology. I'm your host and astrologer, Heather Reeves. In our second episode, we will discuss the astrology for the week of June 12th to 18th of 2023. Thank you for taking the time to like, share, and subscribe. It helps other astrology lovers find this video too. As we go through the slides, tell me in the comments where these transits are hitting for your chart, what transits you are most excited about, and what questions you have about astrology. I'll try to answer those in the next episode. This week, the Gemini planets are very chatty with the Taurus and Leo planets. I think we'll see some good times between work, communication, and our heart's desires. Saturn goes retrograde in Pisces to reconsider the structures, restrictions, and changes we've worked on in our deep psyche and intuition. And we have a new moon in Gemini on Sunday to kickstart a new intention that can unfold over 2 weeks or over 2 years. So with all of that in mind, let's splash into the week. So on Monday, we have a very positive and fiery day with the moon in Aries. You will likely find yourself very motivated and ready to tackle new projects or ideas like a firecracker in the sky. So if we're looking at the chart, this symbol right here represents Aries, it's the ram, and this symbol represents the moon. First up, the moon in Aries trines Mars in Leo. So Mars is over here, it's the circle with the arrow, and then Leo is the circle with the tail coming out of it. Mars is the ruler of Aries and is also the god of action and war. Mars is quite happy in Leo, and he's getting lots of support from the fiery lion to take action on how he can shine brightest in the world. Your emotions are aligned positively with Mars today and will feel very upbeat about the actions that Mars is taking in the Leo area of your chart. Next up, the moon in Aries is going to semi-sextile Uranus and Taurus. So that's this yellow line right here. And then this is Uranus, the one that looks like he's got, I want to say they're like satellites sticking out both sides, and then Taurus is represented right here by the bull. So, moon in Aries, semi-sextile Uranus and Taurus. Semi-sextiles are about adjusting so that you can reach your full potential. The moon represents emotions and nurturing. Uranus represents rebellion, the unexpected, and change. Taurus represents hard work and practicality, while Aries represents new ideas, youth, getting things started. What changes have you been making in your work or routine that need a small boost, fresh energy, and ideas to reach your full potential? Next up, we have the moon in Aries sextile the sun in Gemini. So the sun is the circle with the dot, and the Gemini is the 2 lines with those little satellite dishes pointing up and down. So, sextiles are positive working aspects. The sun represents how we shine brightest in the world, whether we see it or not. Gemini is the sign of the twins, representing information, ideas, and technology. What information are you taking in? What quick and fiery action do you want to take with that new information to shine your light brightest, either in your sibling relationships, ideas that you're having, or the Gemini area of your chart? What house is it in that is asking you to shine brightly? So you'll notice we didn't have a challenges slide for Monday. Basically, Monday looks like a really nice day. On Tuesday, we're going to have some good aspects and some challenging aspects. So today the moon is going to move from fiery Aries into hardworking and pleasure-filled Taurus. So on this chart, you will notice that the moon is at 28 degrees of Aries and is going to move over into Taurus. So all of the planets move counterclockwise except for the North Node and South Node. The North Node and South Node move clockwise. So while the moon is in Aries, it's going to semi-sextile Neptune in Pisces. So here's Neptune. It looks like the Neptune's fork, and then Pisces, the fish, is represented by these two satellite dishes with a line through it. And then this yellow line represents a semi-sextile. So Neptune is at home in Pisces. He is the most powerful there. Neptune and Pisces together represent our dreams, intuition, confusion, music and poetry, substance use, and it can make a mirage of boundaries. Semi-sextiles invite us to adjust so we can reach our full potential. Now, I want you to think about how fire clears fog. So our fire in this aspect is the moon in Aries, and our emotions, they are on fire. What fire can you bring light to the clarity of your dream state in the late Pisces area of your chart? You may find that to be a bit foggy about how to take action or how to work on your dream, but the moon is giving it a positive working aspect so that you can light that fire, clear off some fog, and say, this is what we're going to work on next. So after the moon moves into Taurus, the moon is going to semi-sextile Mercury in Gemini. So here's Mercury. Right here, the circle with the cross and the little antennas sticking up. And he's right here in Gemini at the early degrees. So Taurus works hard to plow the fields and plant seeds so the harvest can be reaped in Virgo season. The bull takes pleasure in their environment and surroundings after a hard day's work. Mercury is in his rulership in Gemini. So Mercury and Gemini together represent our intelligence, ideas, siblings, conversations, and technology. What ideas are you receiving that you'd like to incorporate in your garden of pleasure? So we're going to talk about this garden of pleasure throughout this week. What seeds do you want to plant, and which ones are just ideas? So the cool thing about Gemini is you're going to get a whole lot of information, but you have to decide which information is going to disseminate out. If you planted every seed you had in your garden would be an overflowing, robust mess. It would be difficult to navigate, and plants would be trying to choke each other out. So be selective about which ideas you're actually going to plant into that garden of pleasure. Again, we're going to talk about this throughout the week, so keep it in mind. Next up, we have Mercury in Gemini semi-sextile the North Node in Taurus. So again, here's Gemini right here, and here's the North Node in Taurus, and we've got this yellow line to represent the semi-sextile. So the North Node in Taurus represents our deep desires for a destiny of stability and working hard so that we can take pleasure and comfort in this life. This aspect affirms the moon's semi-sextile to Mercury to decipher which ideas you want to include in that garden. And on Tuesday, we do have a couple difficult aspects, but they happen early in the day. So first up, Venus in Leo quincunx Saturn in Pisces. So here is Venus right here in Leo. It's the circle with the plus. And then we're going to go across this kind of orangey yellow line to this H with a cross on it. And that is Saturn inside of Pisces. So quincunxes represent potential that is difficult to realize. Venus is very happy in Leo, living with warmth and brightness as she shines love, pleasure, and value into the Leo area of your chart. Saturn, the god of time, responsibility, and structures, has softened quite a bit in Pisces compared to the last 5 years. But he's moving really slowly at his degree of retrograde, which is going to take place later this week. That kind of means that he has sunk his heels in, and he is being a little stubborn about this aspect. So this aspect may feel like it's difficult to maintain structures so that you can shine brightly with your love. what I want you to keep in mind is this is going to be a fast transit because Venus moves pretty quickly, and she also has Mars close to her, giving her a boost of power to keep that fire going inside of Leo. Before the moon moves into Taurus, the moon in Aries squares Pluto in Capricorn. So here's the moon in Aries. And then we've got this orange square line with Pluto right here. The moon represents our emotions, mother, and how we nurture ourselves. In Aries, the moon is ready to take action and get moving. Pluto represents death and transformation and the greatest rewards we can find in this life. Capricorn is the hardworking goat that will climb to the top of a rock to claim its power. How can you take action to nurture yourself so you can work hard to claim power in the Capricorn area of your chart? Okay, so on Wednesday, I think we will find this to be a very positive day again. On Wednesday, the moon is nurturing us from Taurus, where she can work hard, be practical, and enjoy the pleasures of the earth. So we're looking at the moon right here in Taurus. And moon is going to conjunct the North Node and Jupiter in Taurus. The North Node and Jupiter are separating now. So they are right here. The North Node looks like the horseshoe, and then Jupiter has a cross with a curve attached to it. So the North Node and Jupiter are separating from one another right now, but they are still working on setting that 7.5, 12, and 19-year dream that we talked about last week. So conjunctions, and that's represented by this red dot right here, but conjunctions are profound influences of the planets together. So the moon conjunct the North Node and Jupiter in Taurus. It is bringing a very nurturing energy to the expansion of your Taurus destiny. With that in mind, what can you do to nurture the seeds of the Jupiter and North Node dream that you're creating? Think of it like fertilizing your plants so that they can root down deeply and bloom bountifully. If you have not set your North Node and Taurus dream that's going to unfold over the next 7.5, 12, and 19 years, that's okay. You still have some time to work with this energy as they're still close to one another, and the North Node is still in Taurus. So you have about 3 weeks to work on this dream before the North Node enters Aries. And that's where it's really going to take off on working on this dream like a firecracker. It's going to say it's time to go. We're going to get this going, and we're going to put energy out there into making this happen. Okay, so next up, the moon in Taurus sextiles Saturn and Pisces. So again, here's the moon. This green line represents a sextile, and then we have Saturn over here in Pisces, which is that H with a cross. So sextiles represent an opportunity to take action. It wants you to work, and it's a positive work. Taurus and Saturn have a good understanding of one another's work ethic. However, they clash because Taurus wants to enjoy pleasure and Saturn operates from a place of constriction. So, how can you take action to work hard and maintain appropriate boundaries to nurture yourself and enjoy life's pleasures? And on Wednesday, we do have a challenging aspect. The moon in Taurus is going to square both Venus and Mars in Leo. We may see a flare in the wildfires today with this square. However, I do think that you'll have an opportunity to work with this positively in your own life. So Venus and Mars are both very happy in Leo, and they are moving closer to one another, deeply influencing each other. They are playing together in Leo and taking up the spotlight. The moon in Taurus is saying, hey, we can work and then we can play to enjoy our pleasures. So, with that in mind, today you get to decide if you're just going to play or if you're going to get some hard work in there so that the play is even more relishing. For me, I love squares with the moon because they make it easy for me to get lots done and clear off my plate of work. I know I will spend my time today working hard at first and then playing hard too. I would just like to remind you at this point in the video to take a moment to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, all the things, as it really helps this video reach others who are also astrologically guided. I appreciate all the time you take to do this. And on Thursday, we are going to have a busy Thursday. It's going to be a fast day too. So first up, we're going to look at Mercury in Gemini. So there's Mercury, this is Gemini, and he is going to semi-sextile Jupiter and the North Node in Taurus. So that is represented by this yellow line right here, and here is Jupiter and the North Node in Taurus. So this refers back to the semi-sextiles on Tuesday between the Moon, Mercury, and the North Node. Jupiter is wanting to expand what Taurus is sowing. So, remember that garden of pleasure we were talking about? Which seeds did you decide to put in your garden on Tuesday? Jupiter is going to help expand their roots and help them grow. Moon conjunct Uranus in Taurus. So here's the moon and here's Uranus, and that conjunction's represented down here by this red dot. And conjunctions represent profound influences of the planets on one another. We know the rune represents emotions, mothering, and nourishment, while Uranus is a rebel. He's the change agent, and he's the shaker of the skies. So, how have you been nourishing yourself, and what change can you introduce so you feel more grounded to enjoy the pleasures of this life? And I'm sorry, guys, I'm realizing I didn't put these right up here. I will throw them down in the description below. Sorry about that. Next up, we have the moon in Taurus semi-sextile the sun in Gemini. The sun in Gemini represents collecting a lot of information about a lot of things, seeing stories from various sides, and helping us shine our light into our sibling-like relationships. What grounding nurturing can you give yourself to decipher the information that you've received in the last 3 weeks? So that semi-sextile is represented here with the moon and then this other yellow line and the sun right here in Gemini. Next up, we have the moon conjunct Mercury in Gemini. So that conjunction is represented with this second red dot. And the moon in this chart is still in Taurus, but she's going to move over into Gemini later this day to form this conjunction. Moon conjunct Mercury in Gemini represents an intense energy of how the information we've been gathering is affecting our emotions and how we nurture ourselves. So, what information is worthy of carrying forward and what needs to be left behind so that we can take care of ourselves? So, think about all of the information that we get coming in at us all the time. We get a lot. Not all of it is necessary. You know, if you carry it in your heart, you're going to have a heavy heart. Carry the information that works for you and works for your life so that you can be your best self. Because when you can be your best self, then you are being the most positive influence you can be on this world, and that's what the universe is calling you to do. Oh, I have it on this slide. Sorry about that, y'all. So that's right. This was a really busy day. I couldn't fit it all on one side, so I have it on the next one for you. So again, here are your thoughts. How have you been nurturing yourself, and what can you change? And what change can you introduce so you feel more grounded to enjoy the pleasures of life? What grounding nurturing can you give yourself to decipher through the information you've received in the last 3 weeks? What information is worthy of carrying forward and which needs to be left behind so we can care for ourselves? On Thursday, Mercury in Gemini squares Saturn in Pisces. So we've got Mercury in Gemini right here. This orange represents the square, and then we have Saturn in Pisces. As we have stated in previous days, with Mercury in Gemini, we're looking at information, intelligence, sibling-like relationships, and technology. With Saturn in Pisces, we're looking at dissolving structures that no longer serve our dreams and subconscious and bringing compassion to the harder parts of ourselves and our lives. Squares represent tension, pressure, and discomfort. We can work with them by making decisions or taking action that helps us turn a corner. So think about squares. They're 90 degrees. They're asking you to turn the corner. What information have you been gathering that can help you make a decision about how you want to show yourself or others compassion? How can that information help you make decisions about which structures to keep or release for your mental health and emotional health? Okay, on Friday, the moon in Gemini is going to semi-sextile Jupiter in Taurus. So we're going to look at that right here. Here's the moon, has moved into Gemini, and then we have Jupiter here in Taurus. And this refers back to the semi-sextile on Thursday between Mercury and Jupiter. The moon is bringing nurturing and emotional buy-in for those seeds that you decided to put into your garden. And next up, we have the moon conjunct Mercury in Gemini. There's Mercury and there's the moon. Here's Gemini. The red dot means the conjunction. Conjunctions are that intensification of planetary energies coming together. So I think today you're going to experience lighthearted emotions that you can express well through chattiness, and you will have more compassion for the information that comes your way. So today is a great day to call a friend or family member to connect in a light and fun way. And then the moon in Gemini sextiles Venus and Leo in a positive working aspect. So here's the moon in Gemini, and then here is Venus and Leo, and this green line represents the semi-sextile. So the moon is intellectual and gathering information to share with happy and buoyant Venus and Leo, and it's going to allow her to shine her love and values brightly into the Leo area of your chart. So, what are the pieces of information you have gathered that lights up your heart? How can you take action on them and follow your heart's path? And on Friday, the moon in Gemini is going to square Saturn in Pisces. So again, we've got the moon in Gemini, the orange line represents a square, and then we have Saturn in Pisces. So this calls back to Thursday when Mercury squared Saturn. Now is the time to allow the moon to make decisions to help support what changes or experiences you had yesterday when Mercury squared Saturn. Okay, and on Saturday, we have, again, another positive day. The moon in Gemini sextiles Mars in Leo. So here's the moon. It has moved on to 20 Gemini, and here is Mars at 16. So again, it would have been a little bit earlier than the time that this chart was set for, but that green line represents the sextile. So our intellectual loving moon is in a working aspect with Mars and Leo. Mars in Leo is all about taking heart-centered action. What information has your heart gathered that it wants to take inspired action on? Next up, Mercury in Gemini sextiles Venus and Leo. So here's Mercury and here's Venus, and that green line represents that sextile. This is a happy working aspect, as both planets are in signs that they really like. Venus likes the idea that Mercury is having, and Mercury likes how lighthearted Venus is. What lighthearted communication or celebration can you have today that celebrates the information that has come your way? And then we have the moon in Gemini semi-sextile Uranus in Taurus. So here's the moon in Gemini and Uranus in Taurus. And remember, semi-sextiles invite us to take action to fulfill our potential. So the moon is lighthearted, it's getting a lot of information, and Uranus is that change agent in the sign of the bull. So he's trying to make changes to things that are really hard to move. So what information have you gathered that is going to support your ability to make changes even if they are difficult? And we are to Saturday's challenges. On Saturn's day, Saturn is going to station to go retrograde in Pisces until November 3rd, 2023. So Saturn will track back all the way to 0 Pisces. So we're looking at Saturn right here. And when we say that Saturn is going to go retrograde, that means that Saturn is going to start moving clockwise around the zodiac like the North Node and South Node do. And when we're looking at the sky above us and actually looking at the stars and planets, from our view on Earth, it just looks like Saturn's going backwards compared to the other planets. Saturn isn't actually going backwards. It just looks that way from Earth based on where we are at with our orbit around the sun and where Saturn's orbit is around the sun. So, what area of your chart does 0 to 7 degrees Pisces fall in? In this area, you've been called to make compassionate structural changes to your dreams, deep psyche, mental health, intuition, and how you interact with substances. I'm going to get a little personal here because I want to really ground this in and bring it down to life for you. And for me, this has been happening in my 3rd house of communication and siblings. I have spent this time working on my boundaries with those that I view as sibling-like relationships, and I've been working on connecting more with my sister. I've also been working on compassionate communication to myself and sharing my intuitive skills with the world by creating this YouTube channel. I also started EMDR therapy, which has helped me compassionately, psychologically integrate events from my past and kindly work with my eating disorder. When a planet goes retrograde, it asks us to revise, revisit, redo whatever we have done with that energy the planet has based on where it's transiting in our chart. So where is Saturn going retrograde in your chart? Tell me in the comments. And again, if you're not sure, let me know that too. I need to know how many of you are going to want like a tutorial on how to find your chart and then figure out where things are happening. How do you want to work on improving the structures and compassion you've introduced in your life since March? What structures did you dissolve, and do you need to reinstate those structures? Are you spending time in your deep psyche and in your intuition? What restrictions in your life are holding you back from being your most compassionate self? What restrictions do you need to reinstate, or maybe reinstate but not so heavy, to help you with your relationship with substances? And on Sunday, we have another good day here. The moon conjuncts the sun in Gemini. This is also known as a new moon. So you can see them right here together. The red dot represents the conjunction. And again, just based on the time that this chart was pulled, the moon has moved on into Cancer, but they did have that Gemini new moon conjunction. We're going to talk about the new moon in more detail in 2 slides. We're going to move on next to aspects that the moon is making in Cancer. So the moon moves on into Cancer and then sextiles Jupiter in Taurus, right here and right here. And we have this green line to show us the sextile. The moon is at home in nurturing Cancer. Cancer is in touch with their emotions, even if they don't show them very freely. And Jupiter is still working on expanding all of the seeds that have been sown in hardworking and pleasurable Taurus. Sextiles encourage us to do positive work. What emotions can you identify with that will help Jupiter grow and manifest the seeds you chose? And how can you expand those emotions? You may also consider protecting your dreams from others at this time to really allow those dreams to get a good start and root down. We don't want anyone raining on your parade before it can even get started. The moon in Cancer trines Saturn in Pisces. So here's the moon again, and then we have this trine, which is the blue aspect, over to Saturn Retrograde in Pisces. And the moon is sending Saturn emotional and nurturing support at the start of his retrograde journey in Pisces. What nurturing can you provide yourself today? It may be a good day to stay home, take a bath, and allow yourself to dream or journal from your deeply intuitive side. All right, so before the moon enters Gemini, the moon is going to square Neptune in Pisces. Now, this is actually taking place at the same time of the new moon. So we're looking at these right here, and then this orange line, which represents the square over to Neptune in Pisces. Our intelligent moon wants Neptune to wake up from the dream and take action so that the dream can become reality. What dream have you been allowing to take a snooze in the background that needs to be awakened into action? What new information have you gathered that you can pass on to Neptune so that he knows it's time to take action on that dream? And the moon in Gemini quincunx Pluto in Capricorn. So here's Pluto down here, the yellow line to represent the quincunx, and then the moon over here, well, in Gemini before it moves into Cancer. So quincunxes represent potential that is difficult to realize. The moon has gathered information while Pluto has been considering the power he wants to claim for deep transformation. What information have you received that has shown you your potential, but it's difficult to consider that it's actually real? Okay, so now we're going to talk about that Gemini new moon. I really like this lighthearted new moon in Gemini. Gemini can be really fun sign that is chatty, upbeat, and see things from various perspectives. At this new moon, we are encouraged to take the information we've received recently and take a fresh perspective on our long-term dreams as it squares Neptune in Pisces. Squares ask us to take action. Maybe there's a conversation you've been putting off or a piece of technology you've needed to acquire to help you build your dream. This is a great opportunity as you are planting new seeds at this Gemini new moon. So, many astrologers look at what intentions you can set now before the new moon in another 2 weeks. I recommend going with something that is easy and achievable in the Gemini area of your chart. So, if you're a planner like me and 2 weeks doesn't feel like enough time to set an intention to see it come to fruition before the next full moon, there's good news. There is something called lunar phase families that allows you to set intentions that take 2.25 years to come to fruition. So when we look at the Gemini new moon, it's happening at 26 degrees of Gemini on June 18th. Look at where that falls in your chart. What house does it fall in? This is the area of life that you will have the opportunity to set the intention. How would you like to see that intention unfold over the next 2.25 years? So in 9 months from now, we will have the first quarter moon at Gemini, 27 degrees, which will be an unfolding of the story and opportunity to take action on the intention that you set in June 18th, 2023. In 18 months, there will be the full moon in Gemini on December 15th, 2024 at 23 degrees Gemini. So, in 18 months, we will see the intention we set come to full illumination and blooms coming to fruition. And in 27 months, at the last quarter moon in Gemini, it's going to be September 14th, 2025 at 21 degrees Gemini. At that point, we will be reaping the rewards of the harvest we planted and nurtured over the last 27 months. So, I definitely recommend taking some time to sit with this new moon if it feels poignant to where you are in life right now, or if you have planets between 21 and 27 degrees in your chart, as they will be affected by this lunation cycle. If not, it's okay if you don't set an intention. I don't make intentions at every new moon myself, mainly the ones that hit my chart in a way that will be impactful. So when you are thinking about what intention you want to set, I want you to remember these themes include intelligence, siblings, information, journeys to the underworld, trickery, technology, transportation, anything Gemini related. But just pair it up with where it falls in your chart for more clarity on how it can have the most impact in your. Thank you so much for tuning into Becoming Astrology and sharing the astrology this week with me. Please tell me in the comments below where these transits are hitting in your chart and what new moon intention you will be working on. I appreciate all the time you take to like, subscribe, and share this video with your astrology friends and family. If you'd like to be notified when next week's video posts, hit that notification bell and be the first to know. I wish you many blessings this week as you transform on your astrological journey to who you are truly becoming.